Good evening and welcome to the June 19th regular meeting of the North Augusta Planning Commission. We're going to call to order so our friends in Facebook land know that we've started. If we could please have roll call.
Aaron Slade.
Bigger.
Lisa Christie. Chelsea Waddell.
Okay, and I'm your chair, Dr. Christine Crawford. All right. So if we could please have the approval of the minutes from the May 15th meeting. Were there any changes or edits? There being none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you. All right. Before I confirm the agenda with Mr. Paradise, we have a full house. So I'll go over the rules of the meeting. So this evening, what we generally do is we'll go over an application. We will have Ms. Paradise make comments. We will then have the applicant share any information with the commissioners that they have at that time. We ask questions of both Mr. Paradise and the commissioners. We will then open it up for public discussion or for public comments. We ask that you keep your comments to no more than 2 minutes because we want to make sure that we hear your neighbors. And we ask that you add different perspectives from the ones that were just shown or different things if they're different facts. So again, we get the full picture, right? So I want to make sure that if you, in your 2 minutes, add to what was said instead of just saying what was said before you so that we don't miss anything. Everyone that comes to the podium, we ask that you give your name and your address. Again, we ask that you give your name and your address. For those for whom mobility may prevent them from coming down the stairs, please let me know if you signal and we can get a microphone to you where you are so that you don't have to come down the stairs. All right. So with that, Mr. Paradise, I'm sorry, I left out a very important part. So when we open it up for community questions, what we do is we have the community all give their questions and then ask the applicant to come back up and to respond to all questions at one time. So we don't do back and forth, ask your question, and then it'll be answered by the respondent at the end. Okay? All right. I'm sorry about that. Mr. Paradise, confirmation of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes in the agenda.
Thank you. All right, that being said, we will get started with rezoning M24-004, a request by WSM Ventures as reflected on the screens to rezone 0.25 acres. Okay. Ms. Paradise, what would you like for us to know?
Yes, ma'am. This is at the corner. This is on Atomic Road. This parcel right here is vacant. You may ride by there and see a slab of concrete out there, but it has been vacant for years. My understanding was at one time there was a liquor store or some small store there. Take 5 Oil Change is looking at building on that site. However, that site is not large enough to accommodate the whole thing. So what they have requested is this parcel that is zoned, I believe it's R10, to be rezoned to general commercial. This would allow them to then combine these 2 lots and give them sufficient area for their commercial development. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Paradise? All right, there being none, is the applicant here? Okay, please come down to the podium and give your name and address.
My name is David Berry, 1028 Glendalen Circle, Spartanburg, South Carolina.
All right, Mr. Berry, what would you like to share with us?
Yeah, so we have been looking at this parcel for some time. Obviously, part of it's residential, part of it's commercial. So that's why we're here tonight. We've got 5 other stores currently in the kind of CSRA, 4 in Augusta, 1 in Aiken, and so propose opening a store if we can. The rezoning, and then we would subsequently file for a zoning appeal or Board of Zoning Appeal for a special exception afterwards that would be contingent.
And it looks like, anything else you want to share with us before I ask?
So the building is approximately 1,600 square feet. The vehicles enter from the rear, exit from the front. Our hours of operation were Monday to Friday, 7 to 8 p.m., Saturday, 8 to 6, and Sunday from 9 to 5. We typically employ 8 to 10 employees with no more than, call it 6 there at our peak hours, which are usually 10 to 4 p.m. But even at peak hours, we may be 3 cars over the course of an hour. We've got a proposed detention area. We have not completed all the civil engineering yet, but we'll have approximately a 40-foot buffer between the paved area and the property line to the rear, adjacent to the residential.
All right, are there any questions for the commissioners, for Mr. Berry this time? I have one, so the parcel that you're requesting rezoning would primarily just be used for employee parking, is that?
Yes, that's correct. But it would provide area for the cars to pull into the lot and get into the building. It's just not, but also the employee parking at the rear.
Okay.
Is that a proposed, I'm assuming, entry right there off of Atomic into that lot as well?
Yes, that is correct.
And, okay, and then just so I can, if you could help orient me. So then you come in, you go to the
You would
right
have-
and then go and pull in?
You would have access off of Martintown Road through a right in, right out.
Okay,
And then you would also have access off Atomic Road, and the cars shown on the Atomic Road side, kind of at the rear of the building. That's where they stack and then enter the building. All the work's done inside the building. The customer never leaves their vehicle, and then exit through the front and could exit outright onto Martintown Road or come back to Atomic Road to get to the light.
okay. All right, thank you. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Berry from the commissioners at this time?
Would all of this be paved all the way around, or is there a landscaping buffer? Because I know staff recommended opportunity for trees, because it's kind of a blighted area over there right now.
Yes, so there would be, I mean, basically the building on the side of Atomic Road would be the edge of paved area, and then the employee parking on the back, so everything else would be landscape. Kind of where the arrow's coming off the N on Martintown, all the way around. And then on the other side, adjacent to the other parcels.
Ms. Slade, it'll have to meet the current development code for landscaping as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Berry at this time? Okay, Mr. Berry, if you could have a seat and we'll open it up for public comments. And then we'll ask you to come back and respond at the end. So if you could, you might need to keep track if there are a lot of responses. All right, we're opening it up now for comments or questions from the community. So if you could, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and again, we ask that everyone keep it to 2 minutes so that your neighbors can be heard. All right, is there any questions or comments around this application?
Hi, my name is LaStacia Reese. I stay at 10127 Atomic Road. And the questions I have, the applicant answered most of my questions. I actually stay in the parcel that is adjacent to the rear of the parcel they are trying to rezone. And so the questions I do have is about noise pollution and light pollution. So I know you said that back parcel is going to be more for employee and detention area, but with me staying there, I just want to know about the lighting, or would there be a lot of noise? You told me the hours were 7, I believe, to 8, I believe. And so during that time, even on the weekends, I know it's a little earlier, but I just want to know about the lighting and noise. And also about the traffic on Atomic. So you said they'll turn in on Atomic and they can go right in or right out on Martintown. But I don't know if they can come around and go out on the left on Atomic or not. Just not sure. So, cause staying in that next parcel, it is kind of hard sometimes to go out left on Atomic, but it just depends.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
for the record, Ms. Reese is a member of the planning staff with the city of North Augusta. She's not involved with this application, nor will she be involved with this application going forward because of where she resides and the possible conflict. But after conferring with you today and conferring with the city attorney, we wanted to put that on the record. And so there's transparency. And I did reach out to the applicant today and the city administrator as well and let them know that Ms. Reese would be speaking tonight. She is speaking in the capacity of a private citizen and an affected resident, and in no capacity as a city official.
All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Berry, if you could please come back and respond to Ms. Reese's question.
Yeah, so in terms of lighting, we have not completed a lighting plan at this point, but would do that and be compliant, especially with residential behind us. Shielding, we typically have one pole light. It's not. I looked at a project we did at Evans, and 15, 20 feet off the building, we were 0-foot candles. So we would do that study and be mindful of, but typically there are a few wall packs on the building really for employee safety as they come out to greet cars in the winter, and a pole light to for the employee safety as they're going to their vehicle. In terms of noise, we have a small air compressor in an enclosed closet within the building that runs 6-8 times a day, really just for filling air tires, and it usually runs for 20-30 seconds. That would be, and then we have a laundry, kind of a dry cleaner type bell as customers pull in, but the bell is located inside the building and you really can't hear it as you get beyond the premises of the building. So that would be, I mean, the employees get there, come into the building for work, not hanging out by their cars. So the only thing I can think of is the air compressor periodically throughout the day would be the only noise. And then on Atomic Road, we have, our goal would be to have a left turn just for customers coming in so that they could get back to the light. But that would have to go through, you know, as we get further down the project to see what would be allowed. Yeah, so Monday to Friday, we just recently in the summer month went to 8 p.m. It was 7 to 7. I'm not sure whether we'll continue that. Saturday is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then Sunday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Peak would be 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Usually the lunch crowd is where we get a lot of people. Sometimes, depending on the location, 4 to 6 p.m. as people are getting off work. But if you did 40 cars over the period of a day, over a 12, 13-hour period, you know, you're really max. You might see 4 cars there at any one time. All right.
Just for clarification, Tommy, again, all we're doing is approving the zoning tonight. You know, this will have to, will it come back to us for the approval of the site plan, or if we've, or as long as it's within the code, they'll be able to build this as.
This size project can be staff approved, so it would not come before you. You're making a recommendation tonight on the zoning.
My comment on this is, right, that's a fairly small lot. It's a general commercial lot. It's not going to be hard to be developed for anything to be on that lot at the size as it is. So to me, it makes sense to make this more accessible to not just sit there and be a blighted vacant lot on that corner. Obviously, it's a very popular corner. Again, in my opinion, I understand that it's adjacent to some residential neighborhoods, but I can think of several worse businesses that could be doing business 24 hours a day and so forth than the proposed service station.
Any other comments?
Could we make a recommendation, in addition to the light behind the proposed detention pond, to add maybe a screen of greenery or something to help delineate the commercial from the residential? Because we do, obviously, it's a strip of homeowners there, and, I respect nobody wants the light, but just to help create a little bit more of a natural buffer just between that back property line.
That would be putting a condition on the rezoning, and conditional zoning is not allowed in South Carolina. So we ran into that last month or a few months ago as well. So you can certainly voice that, and we will look at that in the code when we do the site plan approval, but I don't think you can place the condition there.
Understood. I know you said staff could approve. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other?
I guess I would just like to reiterate what Ms. Lee had said, that you maybe as the staff consider that there are homeowners there and keep that in mind when we're looking at the code and what we could possibly do to help accommodate that when we're looking at the site plan in the end.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion or? And again, this is for recommendations.
I'll make the motion on RZM 24-004 for the proposed rezoning from R10 to general commercial as recommended.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? All right, there being none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank
And
you.
who was the second?
All right. Thank you. All right, so next on the agenda is a text amendment. So RZT 24-002, and it's a request by the City of North Augusta to amend Table 5.1 of the Development Code. Mr. Paradise, what would you like for us to know about this text amendment?
Yes, ma'am. This is, I hate to say it, it's fairly simple because then it goes off the rail and always gets complex. But this is to allow, permit private nonprofit organizations to operate in the public use zoning district as a special exception. We were discussing several options that the city may have of partnering with nonprofit organizations where they aligned in the mission together and may use city facilities, be located on city property. And I think of similar organizations in the past that have partnered with the school district to further educational needs on school property. And we realized, wait a minute, that's not allowed by our particular development code. So what this would do is it would permit that use. Right now, a private nonprofit organization requires a special exception. And so staff, when Mr. Clifford sent this to me, we stayed consistent along the line that it would be a special exception. And the special exception allows the public the opportunity to come and comment to the Board of Zoning Appeals so that whatever's coming in to be used, they have a right to oppose or be heard on before that decision's made. But it also would allow the city and the government entities to partner with these nonprofits and have a bigger impact. And that's it. Yeah.
And in this instance, you are also representing the applicant.
I guess I am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. All right. So are there any questions for Mr. Paradise with regards to this application? And again, this is a recommendation to the City Council for the text amendment. Okay. There being none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for RZ T24-002, Article 5 of the uses and use conditions, that the text amendment, for an amended text amendment to permit public nonprofit clubs and organizations to be located in the public use zoning district as a special exception.
Second.
All right, any other discussion or comments? There being none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you. All right. Next, we are on to PD Plan Development, General Development Plan, and this is a request by CSRA Development Company for Plan Development, General Development Plan, affecting 70.82 acres. All right, Mr. Paradise, what would you like for us to know about this application?
This is a proposed, the parcel, subject parcel is the blue here. It's also this here. You can't see it as well, but it backs up to the Parker's Apartments and goes around to the frontage road, or Compassion Way is called. This acreage is already zoned plan development. There's no rezoning involved here. A portion of it contains R14. There's a road that would run across the R14 to provide access to the PD. The Martintown Corridor Study called for a connector road to go from Compassion Way over to Old Plantation Road. When in the beginning of the discussions of this development with the developers, the city really tried hard to get that road in there. And finally, I came to realize the topography and the wetlands wouldn't let that happen. So that is why that connection is not going through here, as called out for the Martintown Corridor Study. The proposal includes 141 single-family attached homes with access that comes in from Old Plantation Road. The plan calls for a 25-foot natural or revegetated buffer on all sides and the rear property lines that adjoin residential uses. And the buffer on the western side of the property will be a minimum of 25 feet. A pavilion area, fire pit, and playground will be constructed near the entrance, and amenities will also include a walking trail. The commercial section will be accessed off Compassion Way. And it will consist of self-storage, consisting of a maximum of 206,000 square feet of self-storage, 40,000 square feet of open RV storage, 90,000 square feet of enclosed RV storage. A 50-foot buffer along the rear of the parcels will be provided where possible. The developer in the general development plan does maintain the ability to grant exceptions to that buffer where it is necessary. One thing that we've talked about PDs and in our training in the case of Sinclair versus City of Charleston. And this is the definition of a planned development. There is underlined in bold letters in here, and that is because in that decision, that is how they were underlined in bold. It's a development project comprised of housing of different types and densities and of compatible commercial uses or shopping centers, office parks, and mixed-use developments. A planned development district is established by rezoning prior to development and is characterized by a unified site plan for a mixed-use development. So, that is a planning commission decision as to whether or not it meets that criteria. This is the outline for the storage units. You can see there in this area particularly, the topography is awful. And this is the site plan, basically how they have it laid out and proposed. Any questions for me?
Tommy, just in that, further elaborate on that, the definition of we were just talking about a PD. Obviously, this meets the technical definition because it's got residential and commercial uses in it. Now, does that definition mean, again, when I think of that, of a mixed-use development, I think of residences where you can walk to, you know, a restaurant or a retail store or something like that. These are technically on the same parcel, but you know, there's no real accessibility from the residential part to the commercial piece of this. There's not going to be any road that connects through there. There's not going to be anything that really would tie those into what I would think a mixed use. You know, you would have interaction between the two parcels on a mixed use. But can you help elaborate on that definition, please?
I believe the applicant will, it's not in the general development plan that you have in front of you. What I've seen, I believe that it'll be connected by a driveway. I'll let the applicant discuss that with you when he comes up. But, you know, the underlying part is housing of different types and densities and of compatible commercial uses or shopping centers, office parks, mixed-use developments. So that's your call as to whether it meets that or not.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Paradise? At this time, you can still ask him later. All right, if the applicant could please come forward and give your name and address.
Keith Lawrence, 656 Bank Creek Drive. I got Evans, Georgia, 30809. Sorry, in the process of moving. That's the stutter on that one. First, I want to thank you all. Appreciate your time in presenting this information and your consideration of it. Tom, I put together just a brief slide so everybody in the back could see the same information that I was covering on here, as well as y'all. We are proposing 141 townhome lots on 46.5 acres of land. Just to put it in perspective, that's 3 units per acre. When you look at the total size, that's similar in density to a single-family neighborhood. The plan before you is actually a 17.1% reduction from the sketch plan that was presented 2 years ago. We went back and saw if we could skinny out, take out some additional lots out of there. So it's 17.1% reduction from the sketch plan that was originally brought. The layout, which Tommy showed already, this is shows everything. The one thing that's not in there, I'll cover that in a second. I've got a whole section related to the Sinclair court case. Well, I'll address all those items in there individually. We are proposing 2 home site sizes. That was one of the key things that's in there. 22-foot wide and 26-foot wide townhomes. That's actually 18% difference between those lot sizes, as well as the type of floor plans. Each one of those will have 2 different floor plans. The 26-foot wide allows master bedroom down, which serves a different clientele. And the townhomes, in perspective, they'll be over $289,000 a piece on that side. The commercial portion is proposed, obviously, to be the self-storage. The one thing that we added in there after the court case was we will have a private drive connection for the residents to access the storage facility, allowing them to be connected directly through the neighborhood on that side. The difference, and I talked with Tommy about that, is we were able to do a driveway or a smaller road connection where we can't do the full connection for a roadway because of the AASHTO guidelines related to the geometry, speed, vertical curves, horizontal curves. that govern a roadway itself. All right, green space, there'll be 22.1 acres of natural area and 16 acres of grassed area outside of the lots. This gives this project over 52% open space in natural areas. Clearing of the trees and vegetation will only be where needed for grading, which is really the grassed area that's shown. It's the lighter green area shown on the plan. The closest townhome, and that's misspelled, I apologize. I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm not a speller. Closest townhome to the nearest single-family lot is 232 feet. The buffer requirement for PD against R14 is 8 foot. The proposed buffer is 29 times the distance to the closest point. This is based on the buffer requirements set forth in the North Augusta Development Code requirements. Just put it in perspective, a standard single-family residential development would allow the backs of the homes to be within 30 feet of any property line. The proposed design moves the construction as far away as possible from the current residential homes. This just shows some distances I laid out there. You can see it gets very substantial on the northwest side of the property and shows the closest connections on the other side. Where we are close is up against the multifamily apartment site to the northeast. Tommy covered this, but just to recap, proposed amenities for Morris Bluff include walking trails, sidewalks, playground, several parks, fire pit, fishing pond, and dedicated parking spaces. We did complete a traffic study. AECom completed that. Traffic study shows no requirements for improvements to existing roadways. They took into account all the existing and proposed developments in that corridor. It's a pretty extensive comparison. AECom actually had done the other ones as well, so they incorporated that into ours. We are still proposing the same thing that we brought through with the sketch plan, which is still a contribution of $150,000 at such time that I think that you're able to make some of the connections I think that want to be done. We would just need to figure out exactly how we do that, Tommy, whether it's done at final plat or how that would occur on that side. That still remains the same. And then the last one, which is the big one, which is how we address the Sinclair versus the City of Charleston. Went through these each way. So we wanted to go through this and talk about how we don't go against this current court ruling. The court case originated from the desire to change the County of Charleston's comprehensive plan, and what in essence was the same density but smaller lot sizes. This was done to rezone with the rezoning of the property from PD. The reason they rezoned it was they wanted smaller lots with the same density. That was the original court case and how it came about. The court case, the circuit court basically stated that the ordinance did not meet the essential standards for establishing PD. I want to talk about the fact that we did not rezone, as Tommy pointed out in the beginning, to PD, and it was already established by the city of North Augusta. In fact, this land is shown on the City of North Augusta's comprehensive plan as mixed use. The definition of this is in the land use section of your ordinance. Basically states mixed use classifications permit most residential, commercial, institutional, recreation, government, and religious uses. Land uses can be developed in a variety of forms. It further goes on to say the downtown riverfront areas are the most significant mixed use areas in the city. Some areas adjacent to the interstate highways and along major arterial corridors are also appropriate for mixed-use classification. And the big one on here is within this classification, zoning districts with substantially different standards may be located adjacent to each other. And I think that's the key thing, is that during the comprehensive plan, the fact that mixed use would be against a very dissimilar type zoning, which is what we have to our west, was already contemplated when this was originally zoned by the city. I think one of the key features of the circuit court ruling in establishing the PD districts was the following. In order to achieve the objectives of the comprehensive plan of the locality and allow flexibility in the development that will result in improved design, character and quality of new mixed-use developments and preserve natural scenic features of open space. The local governing authority may provide for the establishment of planned development districts as amendments to a locally adopted zoning ordinance and official map of the property. The planned development provisions must encourage innovative site design, site planning for residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial developments within the planned district. What I wanted to talk about was our proposed concept plans address this exact statement. So Sorry, I keep drifting away. We are preserving large amounts of natural green areas, clustering the development to the east side of the property. We are preserving the scenic nature of the existing pond. In the planning of the development, we have the following unique features. All of our townhomes roofs are tied into gutters, tied to downspouts, tied into the storm system. And the purpose of that is to eliminate potential drainage problems after construction and a resident moves in. And then one of the other things is you'll see this in a lot of neighborhoods where the lots back up to each other. We made sure we had separation of 20 feet between the back of them so that the drainage again can be handled without having to flow through people's backyards. And then we plan 39 guest parking spaces in other areas than in front of the houses or dedicated parking areas on that side to give it a better feel. We have large buffers away from the single-family lots, and we are going to have the private access that will connect the residents to the storage facility. Currently, the number is 1 out of every 5 resident has a storage facility. So we have the ability to basically reach 20% of the residents potentially to use the storage facility. So I think that shows the connectivity and the benefit on that side. And based on this information we presented, we think we show that the proposed concept plan does not go against the current court case. Be happy to answer any questions. I know I have a bunch behind me, but from y'all first, and then I'll write them all down.
Mr. Lawrence, just for clarification, you're talking about this access road to
Yes, sir.
to the storage facility. Is that a way to access the Compassion Way or just the storage facility? Is that a way that these residents in this development could get out to minimize trying to turn right or left off of Old Plantation onto Martintown Road?
They could if they had leased a facility. So that would be
So,
an
so it would be just a gated access or something
Still
to the
gated
storage
access.
facility. So it's not
yes.
an access for folks to get down to the stoplight that's at, well, there's not a stoplight at Compassion Way. Sorry. Yeah.
We would have liked to have better interconnectivity, but unfortunately, the way it developed along Martintown Road, it blocked all potential access when that apartment complex came in there, which I know is a little sore subject, but be it may as it may be.
This may be a Tommy/Keith question. You guys have on here that the design elements for the townhouses, that at this time it doesn't appear the garage area meets requirements of the guidelines. Can you elaborate on that?
I don't know.
There is a certain percentage of in a planned development, and I don't know that figure off the top of my head, but there's a certain percentage of the front facade that the garage can be, and it's not meeting that. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, if we have to adjust that on the plans, we will.
And then a secondary question, when I go back to the notes back of May 2022, Dr. Crawford had asked about the commercial, and the comment was made it would be office space or something similar. What made it go all to storage 100%?
The reason was we were not able to separate the parcels. Tom and I talked about that. We had to have one parcel because otherwise we had to have a through road that connected all the way through the parcels, which really wasn't a feasible option because of the wetlands that run basically parallel with the right-of-way of I-20.
And is your organization building the storage unit facility as well, or is that somebody else you're selling?
Still yet to be seen.
Okay, so it's not finalized that this is a storage
No,
unit facility, but that's just a proposed potential usage of the facility.
Yes, sir.
Of the area. Okay.
Are there other potential uses for commercial? Because you're talking about a storage unit that has gated access, so it's also not.
There's no other commercial use besides that particular use.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, we'll still have some time. Okay. All right, thank you. All right.
Yeah,
Yes.
Madam Chairman, before you go to public comment, I did, for the record, receive an email from Mr. Van Moreau. I received that on Monday, June 17th, and I forwarded that to each one of y'all. And I do have you should also have a copy of that email at the dais there for you. If you don't, please let me know. I'll have an additional copy. But for the record, I just wanted to mention that that public comment had been made available to you, and I also sent a copy of it to the applicant.
That was going to be my next question. Okay, thank you. All right. So for our neighbors who would like to make comments or have questions, please come up to the mic. I'm setting a timer so you'll hear it gently buzz once you hit the 2-minute mark. And again, ask that you all give your name and address and add new information and perspectives so that we can kind of get the entirety of your feelings about this. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Patricia Kirko. I live at 70 Shoalsway Court in Savannah Barony in North Augusta. We are an 89 household residency. We have roughly 150 adult residents, and that's not including our teenagers. Our only access out of our neighborhood, or egress out of our neighborhood, is utilization of Martintown Road. Besides our neighborhood, we also have 25 additional households between River Plantation and the additional residents that are on Old Plantation Road. Kind of taking that number to about 230 roughly adults, again, not counting teenagers. Currently, today, getting out onto Martintown Road is a traffic and safety issue. Our residents continually have issues trying to make either a right-hand turn out of there and have oncoming traffic speeding up the road, and trying to get across the road is extremely difficult and quite often felt unsafe. That's what our current situation is. We're getting ready to have come online River Falls, the apartment buildings that are just finishing up with roughly 132 apartments. Another 260 adults, again, not counting teenagers. We have the Hive construction, which was approved quite some time ago, and I understand is getting ready to. They've started breaking ground. I've also come to understand that there's negotiations in the process for a Lowe's grocery store to go in at the corner of Knob Cone Road and Martintown Road. So all of this is occurring right at that intersection area of Old Plantation and Martintown Road. It is unsafe as it is today, and I will work my way through as quickly as possible. We've tried to bring this to the city's attention. We talked about it in May, got the answer that there would be another traffic study if in November we approved funding for capital spending to have that done. The current studies that have been done are not acceptable. They do not allow for adequate distance for the proposal that is being made, which is a right-hand turn only out of Martintown Road, then yielding over to the left with a potential light at Knob Cone in Martintown to do a U-turn. It's not acceptable. We feel unsafe now with our situation. The apartments haven't even come online yet. The Hive's going in. The Lowe's grocery store is being talked about, and development is wonderful for our city and our area. Understand that. We don't want to try to stop it. Our strong request is that there be consideration given prior to any approval of anything new coming into our area, especially utilizing Old Plantation Road, that there be an acceptable alternative. And I think we feel in our neighborhood that having a developer participate in the traffic study is like the fox watching the hen house. And the answer of waiting until November to try to allocate money to do an additional study is not acceptable. So we're asking for it to be delayed for approval until an acceptable traffic and safety solution has been developed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Miano, 286 River Wind Drive. I will just echo Barbara's comments and simply say this. I'm originally from New York. I lived all over New York, especially in the city for 6 years. That corner is among the worst corners I've ever experienced. I drive a BMW, and despite the torque and power of that car, I often have trouble getting out of that corner. I do have a question. It's the first I've heard about trails, fire pits, parks. I was hoping the applicant could comment on where those will be. As you know, we have trails that we no longer can access, so I'm just curious exactly where will these trails be, where do they lead to, how much do they branch, and so forth. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Dave Kirkle, 70 Showsway Court, Savannah Barony. Madam Chairman, if I overshoot, show me the red light, turn the mic off.
Okay.
The traffic situation obviously is very emotional for the residents. And it's hard to just describe what we've been doing with words. Don't have pictures or a movie picture. But I have a request. During the travels of the Planning Commission in the future, going down West Martin Town Road towards the interstate, and when you approach the Circle K, you're only about a half mile from the interstate. Look at the Plantation Road, make a left there, 50 yards, you can make another left at the fireworks store. Hardly anyone's there, turn around real nice, come on out, make a turn, continue going west if that's the way you want to go. Those that are coming, say, from the east, from the interstate, I use it as an example, make a right on the Plantation Road again, turn around at the fireworks station, and make a right and go out. I think if this can be done a couple of times, and your views on whoever is going to be addressing this, what we consider to be a serious traffic problem, share it with them, and maybe they can do it too, will help show the seriousness of the traffic situation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I'm Sterling Robertson, 25 Plantation Court, North Augusta, president of the River Plantation Homeowners Association. My concerns related to this proposal are primarily safety. I will say to start that the specific aspect of the proposal to rezone the portion of what is currently Arthur Shealy's property to provide access to this planned development is the keystone to the development, but it's also the keystone to the problems that it will present for the neighborhood. The traffic issues which have been described previously, if you look at the traffic studies, it already shows during morning rush hour, level of service D, which is unacceptable at that intersection for left-hand turns. The additional 140 plus townhomes will obviously make that worse. The traffic study suggests that right now I've got about 100 houses in there. 140 more houses in there. Traffic studies suggest that you're not doubling the amount of traffic. It underrepresents how much traffic would be added to that intersection just based on simple math. Look at the number of houses that are there, 100, 140 being added. The proportions of what are being added to that intersection don't make sense. Also shows unacceptable level of service going right out of that intersection during peak traffic in the evenings. So clearly the additional traffic is going to be a problem. We've talked in previous planning session meetings about the line of sight at that intersection. The codes suggest 30 by 30 unobstructed area. That's not the case at that intersection. So that contributes to the safety issues. And then the traffic studies consistently suggest that the solution to the left-hand turn out issues is to make it a right out only and then force anybody going towards I-20 to make a left-hand turn at the new light, which is going to be at Knob Cone. So what you're asking in a space of a couple hundred feet, less than 20 car lengths, you got to, per code in South Carolina, you got to establish position in the right lane, then you've got to establish position in the left lane, and then you've got to get over. You're fighting with high school children to do that in the mornings, and all the other traffic that that has been discussed from the additional neighborhoods. That's not acceptable solution, and that's why I oppose specifically the rezoning of that portion of the lot, which is currently R14, to planned development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Crawford, just for clarification, we are not.
So this, what is before us, just for a point of clarification, is a recommendation to City Council around the approval of the plan development, okay? General development plan. So there's not a rezoning. Yeah. So, so, Mr. Paradise, if you could please clarify.
Streets and highways are allowed in any zone. The only thing that will be in the R14 will be a street. So that parcel is not being rezoned. But there will be a street going through that parcel that provides access to the PD behind it. But the R14 will remain R14.
All right, thank
Van Monroe, you've got my letter?
you.
I live at 570 Plantation Drive. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not, but that's a good point. Earlier I heard someone say, hey, this is all PD. So I was a little confused as to was it R14 or PD, right? So if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, essentially it's a duck, right? So I'm coming to you tonight not only as someone who has a vested interest in the community, but also someone that has 25, 30 years worth of residential development and commercial development experience. The last 17 years, I've been intimately involved in the construction and development of a dozen mixed-use communities up and down the eastern seaboard. So I'm coming to you with a little bit different slant maybe than some of my neighbors. I'm certainly concerned about the traffic. But I just want to go through my document real quick. So we're not opposed to legitimate plan development. We're opposed to the developer's proposal to connect it to the existing community. The proposed connection of the developer's townhome parcel is non-complementary in terms of density and compatible fit with the neighboring community. Existing residential lots immediately adjacent to the developer's proposed project are extremely low-density residential lots. There are 7 homes on 59 acres. In contrast, the developer is proposing up to 145 homes on 46.5 acres. That's a 26 times increase in density. Additionally, the nature of the existing homes is rural, while the townhomes are urban. As such, we're opposed to any physical connectivity with the proposed development via Old Plantation Road or any other means. We are not opposed to the developer using its current access point off of Compassion Way to provide ingress and egress for the entire project. As far as the law case goes, as the city looks to approve or reject the developer's proposal, I'd like to offer the following comments. Technically, the developer's proposal does not meet the criteria for a planned development or mixed-use project. It fails to do so both in terms of real estate industry standards and as well as the legal zoning requirements. The real estate industry standards say that a mixed-use development is a real estate project with planned integration, pedestrian-oriented, and a live-work-play environment. This project represents none of those at all. From a legal perspective, the state of South Carolina has said that the planned development district, as Tommy put up there earlier, or a development project comprised of housing of different types and densities and compatible commercial uses and mixed-use developments all in a unified site design. In comparison to that, the developer fails to meet all the mandated criteria. It's not comprised of housing of multiple types, it's one. It's townhomes, that's it. It does not include compatible uses, and it is not characterized by a unified site design for mixed use. So in summary, we're primarily opposed to the developer's proposal to connect to immediately adjacent residential neighborhood via Old Plantation Road. It's not complementary and it's not value added to the existing residents. Additionally, based on the property's PD zoning, the developer's proposal does not appear to comply with South Carolina Code of Laws. The developer is proposing two distinct projects as opposed to a mixed-use project. It's further evidenced by the lack of connectivity of the two uses within the parcel, as well as the separate entrances. It should be noted that the Supreme Court clearly affirmed their position that mixed use has to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rick Goley, 1060 Old Plantation Road. I guess just a question and maybe a comment or concern too. And maybe Tommy or the developers could kind of help here, but I heard it mentioned that the traffic study for this this development included all the other development in the areas. But when I look at the studies that are attached, that doesn't appear to be the case. You know, what I'm seeing here, it looks like the U-turn that we're talking about at Knobcombe that most of us that live there that need to go to the interstate will have to do. It's showing about half of the cars per hour that in peak times that the study for the Hive was showing. So kind of makes me wonder if all that's included in there. And the other concern I had was, you know, with the storage facility, you know, we're talking RVs and that kind of thing. How easy is that going to be for those to make that U-turn at Knobcombe? You know, a lot of RVs, boats, whatever, I would assume will be going to interstate or toward the lake. So how easy is that going to be to do? So just, you know, y'all have heard it before already, but traffic's the biggest concern. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goley.
Can I comment on that just a second?
Yeah.
Crawford? On the right out only at Compassion Way and Martintown Road, just for clarification, and I know that's not part of it, but for the public, is a right out only was required for the developer of the apartments to put in. The developer of the apartments put that in. One of the businesses located in that road had trouble getting his equipment out. He complained to SCDOT, which owns the road, reevaluated that, and now there will be a left turn lane exiting there and a right turn lane. It will not be a right turn only. So I just say that because of the question about the RVs for clarification for everybody.
And South Carolina Department of Transportation, so that's a state road?
Yes, ma'am, and it was done by the state.
Okay, and those decisions are made by the state. Okay.
Mr. Paradise, can you go back to the roads just so we can see what you're talking about on the screen?
Tell me which one.
Up at the-
Ah. That's Compassion Way right there.
All right. Sir, you were coming, please.
Hey, good evening.
Hi.
My name is Anthony Chwan, and I am a resident at 115 Riverwind Drive in Savannah, Barony. And man, I'm a little embarrassed to talk about my third world problem, but as I'm echoing this gentleman here, living in Savannah, Barony, I own a 45-foot motorhome, and I pull a 19-foot car behind my motorhome. And one of my passions is traveling this beautiful country with my family. And so my motorhome stays in storage, but I do bring it home when we get ready to go on a trip. We pack everything up, load luggage, yada, yada, yada. So with this, maybe I misunderstood, but if we're required to take a right turn out of our neighborhood off of Old Plantation, being the size of almost a semi would be detrimental for me to go that way, because then I have no access to go to make a U-turn. So I would have to literally travel down to the city, somewhere down in the city of North Augusta, maybe pull into my church parking lot at Victory Baptist Church and make a U-turn in that parking lot to come all the way back up to the interstate to leave. So again, I know I'm just one person, but I wanted to, voice that not having, if that goes as planned, that would be pretty detrimental and, change our lifestyle of living in particular. So just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
My name is Roy Charbonneau. I'm at 625 Savannah Barony Drive. Been there almost 10 years now. It's a great place to live. What is map doesn't show right there where Compassion Way comes out is that you got traffic coming from the west, which we have a lot of that in the evenings, trying to merge onto Martintown Road at the same place that Compassion Way is emptying out onto Martintown Road. Traffic is killer there. If you ever done it, if you haven't done it, experience it. Another thing about the old Martintown Road, it's a light traffic road. It doesn't have stripes. It's not very heavily maintained. In fact, when we have potholes, it probably takes us, how long does it take to fix those potholes? It takes us a long time, months, 6 months, or next time they're going to run out there, they might fix it for us. So adding more traffic coming out of those townhomes on that light traffic road is going to damage it, and somebody's going to have to maintain it, the city. And we'd expect a better, more prompt fixture on those, things like that. We also have in our neighborhood the retirement home for the Episcopalian sisters, who are kind enough to host us a lot of times. They're not youngins like us. So them making these turns and maneuvers and everything is quite a danger to them. They moved out there for the peaceful part of it, like most everybody out there. So kind of feel like we're destroying that for them, peace and safety for them. Thank you.
Thank
Dan Kamenstein and 1053 Old Plantation Road. I think what I've noticed from the last meeting and this meeting, very few people are speaking up against the development. I think everyone is worried about how much development is going to occur. But what I've noticed is everyone's speaking up about the concern about safety, about traffic. I don't think the developer has adequately answered those questions. He continues to defer and say, well, it's just based on the traffic study. I don't think it's responsible as the developer to put this many houses and ask your customers to take a left turn onto Plantation Drive. They're going to be stuck during peak times. They're going to be stuck in there. So if I was buying a house in there, I would be pretty upset if at 9 o'clock in the morning I was stuck behind 20 other cars trying to get out, because no one's going to be able to make the right turn. So I would like the developer just to answer questions about how he's going to be transparent about to the people he's selling this to. And that's a big concern to me, not only for us, but I think for everyone involved. What everyone's bringing to your attention is safety and the concerns about the fact that people will be trapped in their own communities. And I think that's something that's really concerning. I would also like some clarification. I understand there's going to be the driveway. I think for all of us, it would be helpful to clarify why that can't be the way to exit, other than topography. So I understand topography, but obviously with enough money, you can fix topography for anything. So is this a matter of it's too expensive to connect those two areas? So that would be another question. I have a 14-year-old son. He's going to be driving soon. I will never let him drive out of my house if this goes through. So I will have to move because I'm not going to let my children risk their lives if there's this many more cars coming onto our road.
Expand that?
I can't.
You can't zoom in?
Big as I can.
Okay, my name's Kenny Burkhalter. My wife and I live on 1034 Old Plantation Road. I don't have my glasses. I'm trying to find our property. Is it Melinda Burkhalter? So my question is simply, Mr. Lawrence said that it would be a large distance from, I guess, the homeowner's land to the proposed development. My question is, when I looked at it with a scale, looks like maybe 30 to 50 yards to the detention pond behind our house, behind our property. And my big question is, this thing does go through, is there going to be a barrier between the residential property that we live on and the new development? Like, I guess, a gate or some kind of greenery, trees, and how that's going to be maintained to differentiate our property from the proposed development. I don't know if that was in the proposed development plan a couple of years ago. I hadn't read it in 2 years. Just a question. This goes through. I'm just kind of curious about how it's going to look in our backyard with all these condos, apartments.
Thank you. Ma'am? Yeah, no. I was letting her know. There's two ma'ams.
Hi, Tina Halls, 1129 Old Plantation Road. We've lived there for 21 years, but I just wanted to say, when we came to the city council meeting it was last month, we did it was like a speak your mind or whatever, the free speak in the middle at the beginning of the meeting. But the mayor brought up that there was going to be a red light at Knobcone and Martintown Road. And I don't know if y'all are aware of that or not. And that was when it was mentioned that we would only be able to take a right turn out of Old Plantation Road on the Martintown Road. Well, then I'm thinking too, if we're coming from North Augusta, downtown North Augusta back home, we're going to have to go down and do another U-turn because there's a median there. So that is another factor, not just turning right out of the new apartments that are being built, but they're talking about deferring everything from that red light. We have to take a right. We have a boat. We go to the lake. Where are we going to go? There's lots of people that have lots of land in our neighborhood that have tractors and bulldozers and things like that they utilize. Not only the RVs and people that. So, I mean, what are you going to do with all these people having to do U-turns to get in their neighborhood and out of their neighborhood? And nobody had brought up that extra intersection part. So I just wanted y'all to know there is plans for a red light that the mayor said that he didn't want any more talk about at that meeting. So we couldn't really say anything else. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
I just have a clarifying question. I'm sure you can answer, but so Compassion Way is a state road, right?
That's what's.
Compassion Way is a state road.
Correct.
Martintown is a state road.
Correct.
We have no ability to compel South Carolina DOT to do anything, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And my question, can I ask him a question really quick? Sorry. No matter what with this development or not, will it be a right turn only when they build that light?
Okay. Well, let me
Do we,
address
do we
that.
know? I guess that's the question.
What's referred to there is the Martintown Corridor Study. That was a study that was done. It is the same study that indicated for right out only at Compassion Way and Martintown Road. Well, we see how that worked. And DOT had revisited it and changed their mind. As far as Old Plantation Road and Martintown Road, I don't see any right turn requirement coming in the short term. What is looking at and why the mayor referred to November is on the November ballot will be a capital project sales tax referendum. And one of the things included on that referendum for projects for the city would be to put a fourth leg into the light at Knobcone. And that would connect into Old Plantation Road and bring traffic out to a red light. And then the city would look at what options it wanted to take with Old Plantation Road.
Thank you.
Ready? My name is Chris Loyal. I'm at 580 Plantation Road in the River Plantation subdivision. And I wanted to make a point here. When Savannah Barony was proposed for development in Aiken County back before the city annexed the subdivision, Aiken County standards required that the lots be greater than 2 acres to minimize the population at risk in the event of a major incident in this travel corridor. The city of North Augusta did not have the same standards and allowed smaller lots, resulting in a higher population density in Savannah Barony than would have been allowed by Aiken County, thereby increasing the risk to the existing residents and the then future, now current residents of Savannah Barony. The addition of Moore's Bluff PD traffic would make emergency egress, virtually impossible in what is already an intersection with an unacceptable level of service at peak times. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you all need a microphone? Or does anyone need a microphone? Okay. In the audience. Oh, no, I didn't know if you all, I thought you were.
Barbara Sweeney, 79 Shoals Way Court, Savannah Barony. Is there any way that you can point out where the roads are? It is impossible to read that writing. I guess I'm a little dense. I see where you're saying that Compassion Way is, but where is the Arthur Shealy property? I'm sorry, I can't figure this out.
Right there, and then all of this is his property too.
What, the green, the lighter green, and then the gray?
Yes, ma'am.
So where you says number 1 or whatever, that's Arthur Shealy's property?
That's my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so then the lighter green coming down, where is?
All of this is one parcel, one property owner.
Okay. And exactly where is Old Plantation Road? Is that at the bottom here?
Down here.
Oh, okay. All right, so.
And this would be, and it goes out to Martintown.
Okay. So if that's Compassion Way up there at the top, And those people coming out to Martintown Road, I guess Martintown Road is not really pictured on this, is it?
I don't believe so.
Right
That
there.
right there.
That's Martintown Road.
It there's not a, that's not a good graphic right there as far as the intersection.
All right, but if the people are coming out from these apartments onto Martintown Road and they're allowed to take a left turn, that's right after I-20, where people are merging off of I-20. They go like a bat out of you know what. And then you've also got the people that are already on Martintown Road farther out. They're coming in, and they've just gone through a light. The people off of I-20 don't stop. They just merge. It is, all right, and then you've got the filling station. Then you've got Plantation Road. It is impossible. I don't see how those people are possibly going to get out on like a left turn on Martintown Road off of Compassion Way with all the other traffic that's already coming. How is that going to be possible? Not to mention, if we, out of Old Plantation, coming out of Old Plantation, if we're allowed to make a left turn or a right turn, you've got to be kidding. It's not going to be safe.
All right, ma'am, thank you.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
That's it.
All right, any other questions before we ask the applicant to come up and respond? Okay. All right. If the applicant could please come back to the podium and.
All right, so if I mess up somebody's last name, I apologize on here. Mr. Miano was asking about the location of the, where the trails are all located. Can I borrow your red button? The trails are actually go down to the pond. They're right here. She already cut me off. It's only been like 30 seconds.
No.
I'm kidding. Trails right here. Come back into the neighborhood here. The amenities are located here. And then we've got the pond area right here. And then there's a park here. And then this is part of the park right there on that side. What's the distance between the trail and the based on that, I'd say it's probably 75, 80 feet on that one.
Let me, for the record, there was a question about distance because it's not on the mic, so folks won't be able to. So we could.
You want me to say it?
Yeah.
Was asked the question about what the distance was from the trail to the closest property line. Based on this is just a drawing on here. It shows about 75 to 80 feet in that distance right there. It could be a little further than that, but that's my best guess right here on that one. Mr. Robertson, you covered this, was asking about the rezoning. We're not rezoning the roadway right here. It's just cutting through on that side. Mr. Monroe, I covered a lot of this in the earlier about when we were talking about the when I went through the Sickler case. The one thing that if you read that it doesn't require mixed use. It is one of the options for the PD. It's one of the, this is residential, commercial. Mixed use is an option on that side in there. I'm sorry, sir, I'm talking. 1 second. Mr. Goley, you mentioned your question about the traffic study. All I can tell you is that we hired a professional company to do the traffic study. He incorporated all the flows that were in there. We do not have input on the traffic study. They prepare the traffic study and it's reviewed by the city. And I apologize, Mr. Havinston, if I messed that up, I apologize. I think Tommy covered this. Again, the traffic study was completed to study the whole thing. That's what we pay them for, to look at the impact of the development related to the roadways. But in this particular case, he took into everything on that side. As Tommy mentioned, all the intersection up here, that all the talk about right turn only, does not have anything to do with our development. That would occur regardless if it was passed by the South Carolina DOT. Mr. Burkhalter, you asked the question about a barrier. The only thing that's going to be cleared in this dark green is this detention pond. We are not intending on cutting any trees in here. As a matter of fact, this trail would wind through the trees on that side. So as far as a barrier, this would all be solid woods in here. But if there was something, if you had a concern on related to your property, I'm sure we could work out some type of fencing to keep anybody from wandering over in this area. I don't think that that's an impossibility at all. And Ms. Hall's had the same one about the traffic improvements of the right turn lane. As I mentioned, I mean, right turn movement out of here being, left turn movement being restricted, that doesn't have anything to do with our development on that side. And I think that answers all your questions.
So now I have one question. Now, what with regards to it says housing of different types and densities, and so these are all townhomes, and so I don't know that difference in size would be considered a different type.
Types isn't defined in the case specifically. Types would be, and we've got, we have different size in there. Types would it's not further defined. I read through there to try to figure that out as well, but it's not specifically defined in there as what classifies as a type.
Well, the types and then following densities, because densities would.
Our densities would be different whether you did all 22s or all 26s. We would have we'd have different densities.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant from the commissioners?
Trying to get back to a picture of it for y'all.
Yeah. Could you go back to the one right before it, though? You were fine. Okay, this is topography map. And then one before it, please. Okay, so that's for the RV storage and the storage unit. Okay, thank you, because we couldn't see that detail on the other.
A question for Tommy. Again, as zoned as a PD,
yes.
The applicant has brought us a plan for residential housing. But again, as we discussed in a similar case a couple months ago, with this zoning, it allows for, under the PD, somebody could build a strip center here. Yes? On this property? Or something with it.
It goes back to this definition here. It has to be housing of different types and densities and of compatible commercial uses. So there could be a strip center associated with residential, but you have to have
You have to have both, right? I understand. Yeah, not just a strip center, but I'm trying to think in my head again. If for some reason this doesn't pass, there are potential, again, other developments that might be even less appealing by having traffic coming in and out constantly during the day. If there were some sort of offices or commercial properties that's actually creating more traffic in and out than this, than the proposed residential properties up there in this development. So again, not that is a reason to approve it, but as I look at this, right, and I also have to think about if not this, what else could be there, and what other potentially worse impacts because of the way this property is zoned. Again, in my opinion, again, Maybaum has historically been good neighbors in our community. Again, I think, as I said, they've reduced this slightly from their original plan. I think they're certainly aware of the concerns of the neighbors and are trying to be good neighbors as best they can, build a buffer between some of the existing properties. So I at least acknowledge that. My personal concern is I'm still not sure if this, meets the definition of the PD with the planned limited access to the storage facility. That's what I'm still not sure of on that it by definition, actually meets that that PD definition. But again, I appreciate what Maybaum has presented with this, and welcome, other commissioners' comments on this as well.
Just for the record, I agree with you. I think that when we're talking about what a planned development looks like, that I don't necessarily agree that one business next to some residential spacing that I don't necessarily consider different types. I know that's not defined specifically, but my personal definition when I'm interpreting it is that it needs to be different types of houses. And I think that slapping one commercial project on the back of it and calling it a planned development is not, it doesn't fit my definition based off of this definition of what a planned development is. I think probably just for everyone to know that we all agree and understand your safety concerns as it relates to that road, and would like to reiterate that we have no control over South Carolina DOT. I can understand why you would be concerned there, and I can understand why you would be, regardless of whether or not this goes through. We just don't have the capability to do anything at that intersection that would help you. Just FYI.
But ma'am, we can't. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Again, I'll reiterate my point. I don't think this meets the definition of a planned development, so we don't have an issue.
Tommy, I have a question talking about knob cone and oil plantation, because when we do look at the traffic studies, I think someone mentioned it was like a D or an F. When you say adding the fourth leg,
Yes, ma'am.
Does that mean at some point those two can connect and have one light, or that's just, it's going to be knob cone and the separate?
At somewhere, first thing the city has to do is find the money for the project. Okay. And there is several discussions going on how to fund this project and what that project would be. And one of the ways to fund it is the capital project sales tax. So we don't know if that funding will be available or not until after the November referendum. All right, so the overall plan, if the financing comes to fruition, is here at Knobcone, I'll back this out a little bit, is to extend this road. And yes, there's a house there, and the city would have to acquire some property. What the city would like to do is make this an intersection right here, a four-way intersection, with traffic lights controlling all four sides. Then after that, you could go down here and make this a right out only, or you could close it down, or you could leave it alone, whatever. But I don't think, and I can't talk for DOT, I can't speak for council, but I don't get the feeling that there's a lot going on here till we get something here. If that answers your question.
It does. Because we acknowledge, I've been on that road and just tried to turn on a normal day that, it's a traffic issue. I think most of us have traveled in that corridor also. So, and we know the growth is coming. We can't stop that. It's already zoned. It's coming.
If I could, Ms. Slade, if I can expand on that just a little bit. As with any of these infrastructure improvements along the way that's created by private development, we try to put the cost for the improvements on the developer. And there is some improvements here that is coming from the high, but actually this fella here in Parker at the apartments here is paying to have this installed. I talked to him last week, and he's getting close, and it's about ready to have the mast arms manufactured, which takes 6 months to a year. So we're working hard to try to get this light installed, but at the same time, that's not going to help these people back here until we get the fourth leg.
Any other comments or conversation? And just as a reminder, we need a motion to the positive, even if we didn't vote yay or nay. So still need a motion if there's no other conversation or discussion. And I think as was reflected in my question, also am not, my interpretation of different types would not include townhouses only of two different sizes. So I don't know that that is sufficient in my estimation as well for planned development. Okay. All right. Is there a motion? And this is again for a recommendation to council.
I'll make the motion on PD 23-003 for Moore's Bluff for approval of a planned development based on the NADC section 5.7.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. It's been moved to second. Any further conversation or comments? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Nay. All right,
Was
thank
that
you.
unanimous?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Paradise?
Was that unanimous?
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, so Mr. Paradise, we are on to the staff report.
Well, as usual, I forgot to put together a report, Madam Chairman.
Oh, that's fine.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if he's gonna find. Okay, so he's gonna get to it in a minute.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
But I really don't have one prepared.
Okay.
We are busy.
Yeah.
As usual.
I just wanted to notate, put in the record, we changed our meeting times a couple months ago. On our website, it's still showing 7 because there was some confusion. So if we can get that updated.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
very much.
as always, want to thank you and staff for all that you all are doing to manage the volume of work that is coming as North Augusta grows. So we want to thank you all for all that you do for the city. We want to thank everyone for coming out, sharing your thoughts with us. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. And we adjourn Planning Commission meeting for June 19th.